I'm going to start on question 1. And go ahead. What's x equal to? 5x plus 3 equals minus 17. Okay, what is that? Negative 14 over 5. Hold on. Hold on. Let's start back at the beginning. What's the first step you do here? Okay, so what's the left side equal? Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, number 2. These are pretty typical of the problems you find on there, especially this one as an easy problem. The reason I say it's typical is because it's got a lot of information in there you do not need. And ACT is famous for this. They put information in there that you really don't have to use to solve it. You know, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers in that problem. But you don't need most of them. What's the ratio of number of people that you want to serve versus the number of people that serves 6 people? What's that ratio? You want to serve 18 people, this recipe serves 6 people. What's the relationship? Which is what? You can't leave it as 6 to 18. You always got to simplify those things. Yeah. So if it's 3 to 1, how many pairs does he need? Okay. Notice that the number 4 has no relevance, the number 10 has no relevance, and the number 2 has no relevance. The only thing you need to know is that the first case is 6 people. He wants to know how to serve 18 people. It's 3 times every single ingredient. So he would need 12 oranges, 15 pears, 30 apples, and 6 dozen strawberries. Well, they're only asking about the pears. So all those other numbers don't matter. You just need to multiply the pears by 3. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Yeah. All right. Hold on. Oh boy. All right. Yep, this works. So what's the greatest integer that is a factor of both of those numbers? So each of these numbers is comprised of 2 things, that and that, okay? Let's start with the number on the left. What's the greatest integer that's a factor of both 8 and 6? Okay, good. Now what's the greatest integer between these two? 10 to the 9th and 10 to the 3rd. Okay, there's your answer right there. 2 times 10 to the 3rd. In other words, what they're asking for is, what's the greatest number that can be divided evenly into both of those terms? 2 times 10 to the third is the answer. All right, hold on a second to do this. Boy, this is starting to scare me. My computer is going the speed of molasses. It's never a good thing, especially after you've rebooted twice. Well, it doesn't like being closed out. Why would that be? Well, still need to close that out. Okay, there we go. Let me open the next one. All right. Remember, these are easy because they're small numbers. This is number 4. It's the area of that rectangle. What's the area of a rectangle? What's the formula for it? Definitely one you want to remember. Yeah, it's length times width. It's the base times the height. You can write it this way or length times width, whichever way you want. It's one dimension times the other. And in this case, it's 4 times 3. So it's 12. Number 5. Go ahead and read that. Now, once again, keep in mind that this is a low-numbered problem. This can't be that hard. They don't put hard problems in the low numbers. So this is going to be a relatively easy problem. It kind of looks hard. Now, if you read it, it might seem hard, but just keep convincing yourself this is not a hard problem. All of the numbers have pi in them. What does that indicate to you? What are we looking for here? We're looking for area, circumference. What are we looking for? Okay, give me the formula for circumference. It's important. This is a number you gotta know off the top of your head. Area and circumference of a circle. There's nothing more important than that for you to know. What's the area? What's the area of a circle? Pi what? Everything involving a circle is going to involve pi. That's why all your answers have pi in them. So, the 2 things you absolutely have to know are what's the formula for area and what's the formula for circumference of a circle. That is the most basic geometry there you can know. What are pi? Or what is area? Is it pi r what? Well, how do I remember that? Because pi aren't squared, they're round. Okay. If you think about a pi, it's round. Well, this says pi r squared. That helps you to remember it if you think about the anomaly there. Now, to get the circumference, what do? What's the circumference? Take that 2 and stick it in front. That's it. It's as simple as it is. So all you got to do is, if you can remember the area, then the circumference is you take the 2, stick it in front, make the r squared an r. So those are your 2 basic formulas there. Okay? And what should be the white silk band to just fit around the top hat? What is that? Circumference or area? Okay, so what is it? They give you the radius. Two pi 4 is 8 pi. Okay? All right, number 6. Are you getting close to your test date? When are you taking this test? Okay, so you still got a lot of time. Okay. All right, these can be a little tough. Okay? This one is not tough. This one is fairly easy. But I'm going to show you a technique that will work whether this was tough or easy. Okay? Here's the thing you look for. There's an X in the question and there is a Y in the question. Every single answer has an X and a Y in it. That is the red flag you look for picking numbers. Okay? So, the trick here is to pick a number for X and Y that are small, first of all, but don't ever pick 0 or 1. When you are picking numbers, do not pick 0 or 1. You need small numbers, but you don't need 0 or 1. So give me an X. Pick any number you want. Just make it small. Make sure it's not 0 or 1. Okay, how about Y? Make Y a different number. Okay. So, if I wanted to fill 2 large jars, how many olives would it take? I wanted to fill 2 large jars. Okay. And if I wanted to fill 3 small jars, three times 32. Get your calculator in front of you so you don't have to struggle with these. Okay, what's that equal to? Okay, so what I'm looking for is one of these 5 answers to be 192 when X is 2 and Y is 3. That's it. So, in other words, worst case scenario is we're going to try all 5 answers. When we get 192, we will have found the correct answer. So, what gives you 192? Start with F, always. in a situation like this, just start with the lowest. Yeah. Notice that I didn't have to figure out anything, because when I picked numbers, it came to me. I immediately knew that that has to be the large jars, that has to be the small jars. Your brain figures it out. Okay? And so you know that if x equal 2 and y equal 3, the answer is 192. Well, you just start plugging in x equal 2, y equal 3 to every answer until you get 192. So even though, now this problem is actually relatively easy. A lot of people could get this without doing this technique. But if you have 3 variables, x, y, and z, and one of them is a divider instead of a multiplier, it can get quite complicated in your head. So if I take this same problem and make it a problem 25 instead of 6, it's going to have 3 variables. And then it really will be tough to do mentally, but always doable this way, where you pick numbers. Okay? It is a great technique for doing hard problems. You don't use it really that much for easy problems, but when you have a problem that's really, really hard to grasp, boy, picking numbers will turn it into an easy problem really quick. All right, if f of x equals 3x squared plus 4, what does f of x plus 1 equal? What do you do with what's in the parentheses when you have a function? In other words, let's back up a little bit. If I said, what is f of 2? What is it? What do? No, there's a trick. You always do it every single time. Whatever is in the parentheses, you do what? You plug it in for x. In other words, if I have a function that says f of x is equal to something, then f of 2 means I'm going to plug in 2 wherever I see x. So it would be 3 times 2 squared plus 4. That would be f of 2. If I said f of 17, I'm going to plug in 17 for x. What if I say f of x plus 1? What am I going to do? Same thing. What am I going to do? Plug in whatever's in the parentheses, even if it's a variable, not a number, for x. So what is this equal to? 3 times what? Squared, because the x is being squared, plus 4. So that's what you do. Whenever there is anything in the parentheses other than x, you plug it in for x. It's as simple as that. It never changes. You could say, what is f of x squared plus 3x plus 2? You plug in x squared plus 3x plus 2 wherever you see x. Okay? Now, notice that that answer is not one of them. So what do we have to do? When you don't know what to do whatever you can do. What can you do to this answer? Not solve it, expand it. Yeah. Do that. Tell me what you get. Okay? Okay, there you go. Not 1x. Just 1. In other words, x plus 1 times x plus 1 is x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay? And notice the whole thing is still being multiplied by 3. The 3 was not being squared. Just the x plus 1 was being squared. So simplify that. In other words, you're not done yet. You need to keep simplifying. Okay? Tell me what the next line is. Okay. That's full simplification. That's that answer. Just remember that when they give you a function, f of x, and then they ask you what f of something else is, it doesn't matter if it's a number or x plus 1 or something far more complicated. The answer is you take whatever's in the parentheses and you plug it in for x. That's all you do as a first step, and then you simplify. It's as simple as that. Hold on, I gotta figure out how to go to the next page here. I guess I can just do this. All right, here's good stuff right here. You have a calculator in front of you? Don't use it here. Well, go ahead. I'm going to let you do this problem as only, do it however you want. But I'm going to warn you in advance that a calculator is not going to help. Because a calculator is going to translate all these things to decimals, and it's going to give you a decimal answer. Go ahead and use a calculator. See what you get. It might help, actually. What do you get? Put 5 and 5/6 plus 3 and 5/8 plus 1 and 1/3. Might actually help. I've never told anybody to use a calculator here, but might actually help. It's not the way this problem was meant to be done, but it might help in getting an answer. The only thing that matters is getting the answer. It doesn't matter how you do it. It really doesn't. They're not testing your math skills here. They're just seeing whether you can come up with the answer. What do you get as an answer? 10 and what? All right. Let's talk about adding fractions. Okay. First of all, we don't need to include these numbers. We know those numbers add to 9, right? So the only thing we need to do is figure out this. We know it's 9 plus this, right? The question is, how do you add those 3 decimals, or those 3 fractions? Okay, what is it? Yep, no, that's absolutely right. What's the common denominator? Okay, and this is the way I'll always do it, no matter what level I'm doing it. We'll keep it straight. Now, what is 5/6 in terms of 24ths? Just as a trick, divide 6 into 24, take your answer and multiply it by the numerator, 5. Okay. Notice that 20 24ths is the same as 5/6. That's your whole goal, is to turn it into some number of 24ths so you can add them together. Well, how many 24ths is 5/8? And how many 24ths is 1/3? That's correct. So how many total 24ths do we have? Now that we have a common denominator, we can add all the numerators up. Yeah, 43 24ths. And let's not forget the 9. In other words, we set aside the 9 because we knew we could always retrieve it. And the problem is simpler if we deal with just the fractions. So that's our answer, but that's not on there. So what's the answer? Convert 43 24ths into a whole number and some 24ths. Is it less than 1, greater than 1, less than 2, or greater than 2? Greater than 1 for sure. So it's 1 and how many 24ths? Subtract 43 minus 24. I want you to do it on your calculator. Come up with it. 43 minus 24. This right here is 43 24ths. Now combine that with 9. What do you get? So it's this answer right there, correct? Now, you see why this problem would have been tough using a calculator? Because 5 and 5/6 gives you a decimal, 3 and 5/8 gives you a decimal, 1 1/3 gives you a decimal. You add them all together, you're going to get a decimal. You're not going to get 19 24ths. Now, you may be able to figure out what that final decimal is, but it's not obvious. In other words, the proper way to do this is manually, not using your calculator. This is the classic example of where the calculator does not really help you. I mean, I suppose it could. You can come up with a number and see if it's close to 10 and 19 24ths. But that's not really the way to do it. They're looking for people who can do this, who know how to add fractions. And the secret, really, for this problem is to separate the whole number and the fractions, and then just deal with the fractions. All right, number 9. What should we do on number 9? Go ahead and read it and tell me what the first thing that comes to your mind is as what we should do to solve it. Yeah, draw a picture. Okay? So, figure this out here. Here's our picture. There to there. Okay? We're going to call this his house. And the school is 10 miles from the house. We know that's 10. Now, let's just read the instructions. If he walks down the street directly from the school to the house, notice he's going this way, not the other way. It's important. It doesn't say he's walking from his house to the school. It says he's walking from the school to his house. He passes a candy store and a grocery store. Well, there's the candy store. There's the grocery store. The candy store is 2.3 miles from the school. That's this measurement right there. And the grocery store is 3.4 miles from the candy store. How many miles is it from the grocery store? In other words, this measurement right here. The whole thing is 10. Actually, it's 2.35. I left off a key digit there. You're doing it right. Add the grocery store to the candy store distance. What do you get? Do it on your calculator. Okay. Now it's 10 miles in total. You're going to subtract that distance from 10. There you go. These are easy problems. You just have to do them right. In other words, you want to draw a picture. If you don't draw a picture, this is hard to get an understanding on. Especially since they try to trick you. They start out by telling you the distance from the school to his house, and then they tell you he walks down the street, but it's important to know that he starts from the school, not from his house. So, in a way, it's kind of trying to trick you. All right, how about number 10? Sorry about that. It's thundering here. I got a dog that barks every time it thunders. Well, now it's raining really hard. Where do you live, Brandon? Do you live anywhere near King Carl? So it must be raining where you're at too, because it's raining really hard here. No? Not yet, huh? It will be shortly, I'll bet. All right, number 10. There's two ways to do this problem. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. See if you can figure out the easy way. How many new pieces is his piano teacher giving him in total? If she gives him 3 new pieces every week, okay? So she's giving him 12 pieces. Read the first sentence again. How many weeks will it take him to learn 12 pieces? Yeah. You know what? I hear you guessing because your arithmetic is not that great, okay? So let's accept that. Your arithmetic is not great. So every time you have arithmetic, I want you to use a calculator. I don't tell that to very many people, but we're getting down to desperate times here. Use a calculator. If you're given 12 things to do and you can do 2 per week, how many weeks is it going to take you to do those 12 things? Yeah. Just divide 12 by 2. That's the key. You have to know how to divide 12 by 2. You don't have to know what 12 divided by 2 is. Your calculator will tell you that. But you have to know to divide 12 by 2. Well, my calculator's moving right along. I don't know what was wrong with it. It seems to have been cured. Okay, geometry problem. Now, know that the ACT has about the same number of geometry problems as it has algebra problems. So you definitely, and most people, it's been a lot longer since you took geometry. What year are you in, Brandon? When's the last time you took geometry? Okay, so it's been at least 2 years for most everybody. Most everybody that takes the ACT, it's been a number of years since they took geometry. So geometry tends to be a little tougher for people. So probably would be helpful if we kind of focus on geometry. But there's a few things in geometry you absolutely have to know how to do. First of all, which angle is 35 degrees? Tell me, describe it on this triangle. Yeah, no, you start there, you go to there, and you finish up there. So it's that angle. Okay, that's 35 degrees. Which angle is 65 degrees? Okay. Now what? You got 2 angles of a triangle. Once you have 2 angles of a triangle, you can always figure out the 3rd angle. How? Okay. All 3 angles always add to 180. So what's the 3rd angle? That's it. Pretty easy. All right. Read number 12. Here's the key word in number 12, right there. This is an average problem. Might even use the word mean. Mean means the same thing as average. So they might say, if she wants a mean score of exactly 175, what does she have to bowl in her 4th game? Well, here's the thing I tell all students. When you are dealing with an average problem, this is an average problem, the most important thing you can think about is totals. It's always about totals. It's never about comparing averages. It's always about totals. Just keep that in mind. When you run into an average problem, start thinking totals. So first of all, what's the total of her first 3 games? Use your calculator. Don't do it in your head. You're going to do it a lot quicker in your calculator. So get used to using your calculator. Now, in order to get an average of 175 for 4 games, what does the total have to be for all 4 games? That's the way you do these. You do not compare averages. You do totals, always. Use your calculator. You just have to know how to do it. And you have to know whether to multiply, divide, add, whatever. If you have an average score of 175 over 4 games, what is your total of the 4 games? What's your total bowling score in 4 games? If I have an average of 150 in 2 games, what's my total? So how'd you get that? You multiplied 2 times 150. In other words, you always get total by multiplying the number of games times the average. So what's the total for all 4 games? Use your calculator. Don't do it in your head. 175 times 4. 175 times 4 cannot be 195. Let's do it step by step so I can stay with you. And it's an important concept here. I mean, you may have come up with the right answer, but you got to do it the right way. The total is 700, right? So if the total in the first 3 games is 505 and the total in the first 4 games is 700, what does she have to bowl on the 4th game? Yeah, the difference between those 2 totals. Now, you see where you're not comparing averages. In other words, if I came up with an average for the first 3 games, I would have to divide that by 3. I don't know what I get. I get some 165 maybe. Doesn't matter. That is completely unimportant. I'm not going to compare 165 with 175. That's not the way to do average problems. Average problems, you never, ever compare averages. You compare totals. So the first thing you should think of when you see an average problem is this is a totals problem. So all I got to do is figure out totals. Got it? Number 13. Read it and tell me what's the first thing I'm going to do. Well, it is raining nice over here. My yard's going to love it. I need to go turn the sprinkler system on. Yeah, always. If you don't know how to do a problem and it gives you something like this, just draw it. Now what? Okay, here's 1 point, 0, 0. Here's another point, 3, 5. In other words, the x is less than the y. This is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. And the third point is 0, 2, which goes right about there. Now it says those are the vertices of a triangle, which means I got to draw the triangle. Okay, I'll use a different color here. There's our triangle. Now, which of the following best describes that triangle? Read all 5 answers and tell me which one is correct. Is A correct? Is B correct? Is C correct? Is D correct? No, we're done. You don't even have to look at E. E has to be correct. And that's an important concept when you're doing the ACT. If you eliminate all the answers but one, you're done with the problem. Choose that answer, go to the next one. Now, if we want to just, if we had lots of time, is that correct? Yeah. This angle right here measures more than 90 degrees. All right, number 4. Oh, I'm sorry. I've taken you way beyond time, but we took a little 5-minute break while I rebooted. So we did about an hour. And we'll pick up from here next time. I'll make a note. Okay. All right, Brandon. Talk to you next time.